Have you ever wondered why a woman who once seemed so warm, so affectionate, so into you, suddenly turns cold without warning? 1 week, she's calling you her world. The next, she's taking hours to reply, telling you she needs space, or testing your patience with hot and cold games that leave you questioning everything, including your own worth. You weren't imagining it. You weren't too sensitive. You were just playing a game you didn't know had started a game where the rules change, but the scoreboard still counts against you. Here's the truth: most men don't want to hear some women play mind games because they can. Because they've learned from experience, from culture, from the silence of weak men that games give them power, control, and emotional leverage. And here's what makes it worse. Most men walk right into the trap, begging for clarity from someone who profits off their confusion. Imagine this: you're dating a woman who seems perfect. She laughs at your jokes, touches your arm during conversation, texts you first. You let your guard down. You start thinking about a future. You start imagining what it would be like to finally have someone who gets you. So what do? You give more. You start chasing the high of her approval. Then it shifts. She pulls back, subtly at first, delayed responses, less physical affection. Suddenly she's busy. Suddenly she's not sure what she wants. But she still wants to talk, still wants attention, still wants you close enough to validate her, but not close enough to challenge her. That's not confusion, that's control. And the more you try to fix it, the more power she gets. The more questions you ask, the less she answers. The more reassurance you seek, the colder she becomes. And you start spiraling, because deep down, you're not just fighting for a relationship. You're fighting for your sense of self. You want to believe you were enough. That if you just do more, prove more, explain better, love harder, she'll return to who she was at the beginning. But here's what most men don't see. That beginning version of her wasn't real. It was a projection, a hook. Not necessarily malicious, but instinctive. It's how some women secure attention, resources, commitment, and emotional investment before deciding if they want to keep giving anything in return. You were never on the same playing field. You were auditioning for permanence. She was collecting power. And now, you're in a maze. You stop expressing needs because you're afraid they'll push her away. You stop setting boundaries because every time you do, she punishes you with silence or guilt. You stop trusting your own instincts because she makes you feel like you're the problem. And this is the trap, the emotional warfare most men aren't trained to survive. Because no one ever taught you that silence can be a weapon, that delayed responses are a test, that inconsistency isn't a flaw, it's a tactic. So let's make it tactical. If she withdraws attention to get a reaction, don't give one. Don't chase, don't question, don't send that long text explaining how you feel. She knows how you feel. She's watching what you'll do when she starves you of warmth. That's the test. And when you pass, when you don't react, when you stay grounded in your own rhythm, when you don't need her response to feel whole, she loses control. Not because you outplayed her, but because you stopped playing. Let me give you an example. One guy I know, we'll call him Sam, met a woman who was everything he ever dreamed of. Funny, soft, smart, flirty at first. But after a month, the tone changed. She stopped initiating. He started over-texting. She'd cancelled dates last minute but still post selfies with vague captions like priorities. Sam was hooked. He thought he did something wrong. So he doubled down, sent flowers, offered to talk, apologized for being too intense. And every time, she gave him breadcrumbs, enough to keep him there, but never enough to feel valued. Until one day, Sam stopped. No explanation, no final message. He just went silent, focused on himself, stopped looking at his phone every hour like a prisoner waiting for news. And what happened She reached out, but by then, Sam had already seen the truth. It wasn't about him not being enough. It was about her needing control. Once that power was gone, her interest came flooding back. That's how you break the cycle. Not through confrontation, but through detachment. The mistake most men make is trying to fix emotional manipulation with emotional clarity. But the antidote isn't clarity, it's indifference. It's being okay with walking away. Not to punish her, but to protect your peace. So here's your first truth. A woman's emotional games don't reflect your worth. They reflect her hunger for control, her fear of intimacy, or her habit of testing power. But whether she wins that game, that's your choice. Have you ever caught yourself chasing after mixed signals, hoping to fix the vibe? What's the most confusing thing a woman has ever done to you, and how did you react? Which part of this hits hardest right now? Drop your thoughts below. There's a moment quiet, humiliating when you realize you've given too much. Not just time, not just attention, but dignity. And what's worse, you did it willingly. You thought it would prove your value. You thought it would earn you consistency. But instead, it brought you silence, distance, contempt disguised as confusion. And that's the sick part, isn't it? The more you give, the less she values you. The more you open up, the more she retreats. You start to wonder, what am I doing wrong? Why isn't this enough? But you're asking the wrong question. It's not what you're doing wrong. It's why you're doing it. Because when a man operates from fear of loss, fear of rejection, fear of being alone, he becomes easy to control. She doesn't have to say anything. She just has to withhold, and you'll panic. She doesn't even need to insult you. She just stops praising you, and you'll fold. She doesn't need to chase others. She just needs to stop chasing you, and you'll start trying to earn her again. Let that sink in. The biggest mistake you're making is believing that her inconsistency is your fault to solve. It's not. It's her choice, her behavior, her habit, and sometimes it's her strategy. You need to start recognizing the patterns, because when you don't, you stay in the loop of emotional slavery, mistaking manipulation for mystery, thinking her distance makes her more desirable, believing that winning her back is a test of your masculinity. It's not. It's a test of your self-respect. Let's break down the game piece by piece. First comes the bait-intense attention, flirty compliments, long conversations, promises of a future, even if vague. This is the investment phase. She's drawing you in, making you believe she's different, that this time it's real. Then comes the shift, slow replies, vagueness, small criticisms dressed up as just being honest, less affection, less time, but no breakup, no ending, just enough contact to keep you hopeful. This is the trap. She's waiting to see, will you chase harder? Will you start proving yourself? Will you abandon your standards to keep her close? And if you do, she wins. Not because she's evil, but because you've confirmed her power. Let me tell you about David. He was dating a girl who seemed amazing at first, beautiful, intelligent, emotionally expressive. But 3 months in, she began pulling away. She used words like, "I'm just overwhelmed," or "I need to figure out who I am." Classic. David panicked. He'd never felt this connected to someone before, so he started giving more, bought her a necklace, wrote her a long letter, even told her he was willing to wait as long as it takes. She responded with a single text, "Thanks. That means a lot." And then silence. Weeks. Until she posted photos with another guy at a music festival. David was crushed. But here's the thing, she never technically lied, never said she was exclusive, never promised anything. But her actions strung him along, and he let it happen because he thought his loyalty would be rewarded. That's the lie many men swallow, that loyalty earns love, that devotion earns clarity. But in games like this, it earns leverage. So let's shift from emotion to strategy. When a woman pulls back, your move is not to lean in. Your move is to mirror her energy. If she stops initiating, you stop chasing. If she becomes vague, you become precise with your distance. If she says she's not sure, your answer should be, "Then I'll step away until you are." You don't beg for position. You withdraw from the battlefield. And the power of this response isn't just in what it says to her, it's what it says to you. That you don't fear loss more than you value peace. That you're not defined by her emotional attention. That you don't perform for crumbs. This isn't about punishment. It's about alignment. Let me ask you something. Would you keep pouring water into a cup that has a hole in the bottom? Then why do you keep pouring love into someone who cannot hold it? Stop trying to fix someone's inconsistency with more consistency. It doesn't make you a better man. It makes you an easy target. You want a tactic? Here it is. The next time she goes quiet after being warm, match her silence. The next time she sends a vague, dismissive reply, don't respond right away. Wait. Reclaim your pace. The next time she says, "I'm not sure what I want," tell her, "Then I won't force it," and then walk. Not to manipulate, but because you know you don't chase chaos. Women test emotional boundaries the way children test bedtime rules, not because they hate you, but because they want to feel your frame. If your frame collapses under pressure, the respect disappears even if the connection doesn't. And you'll feel it. She'll stop looking at you the same way. She'll stop valuing your time. And no matter how much you try to bring back that beginning magic, it's gone. Because once she sees that you'll fold for her approval, the game is won. And you've lost yourself. So take a breath and start valuing the one thing no woman can manipulate: your silence when something doesn't feel right. Have you ever been in a situation where her silence made you doubt everything? What did you do the last time a woman started playing cold games? Did you pull back or did you chase? Be real with yourself. Then share it in the comments. You're not alone. There's something you need to understand about power. It doesn't scream. It doesn't beg. It doesn't explain itself over and over to someone who's already decided to misunderstand. True power is quiet. It's the decision not to respond to disrespect, not to engage in emotional ping pong, not to compete for attention with people who treat it like currency. But most men, they haven't been taught this. They're raised on the myth that love is earned through effort, that if you try harder, if you're more patient, more communicative, more forgiving, she'll see your worth and stop playing games. Wrong. Some women don't stop playing because they've never been challenged by stillness. They've only dealt with men who react, men who panic, men who need the connection more than they protect their sanity. Let me tell you about Marcus. Marcus was a solid guy, emotionally available, kind, hard-working. He met a woman who came on strong calling every night. Deep conversations, spontaneous weekends away. She told him he made her feel safe, that he was the only man who truly understood her. Then, just like that, the tide shifted. She started taking longer to reply, started canceling plans, started saying things like, "I'm just not feeling like myself lately," or "I need time to think." Marcus, confused, leaned in harder. He thought, if I just remind her how much I care, she'll come back. So he sent messages like, "I'm here for you no matter what." He even surprised her with flowers at her apartment. She didn't even come to the door. A week later, She was posting thirst traps with cryptic captions, healing, space, letting go. When Marcus finally got her on the phone, she said, "You're such a great guy. I just need to focus on me." Sound familiar? That phrase, "focus on me," is the modern version of "keep orbiting me while I explore better options." It's not always cruel. Sometimes it's just unconscious. But make no mistake, it's still a game. A woman doesn't need to lie to play games. All she needs to do is hold back affection while keeping your attention. It's the manipulation of emotional oxygen. And if you're not careful, you'll suffocate slowly, quietly, and with a smile still on your face, thinking love is around the next corner. So let's talk tactics. When a woman starts shifting the dynamic without accountability, your job is not to decode her. Your job is to observe the pattern and adjust your investment. If she used to call every night and now disappears for days without explanation, match her energy. If she says she wants space but keeps checking your Instagram stories, that's not vulnerability. That's surveillance. If she claims she's not sure what she wants but gets jealous when you take distance, she doesn't want you. She wants the option of you. And if you give her that option freely, you're not being kind. You're being conquered. Men lose themselves when they start negotiating their non-negotiables. Let me say that again. Men lose themselves when they start negotiating their non-negotiables. You need peace. You need clarity. You need consistency. That's not needy. That's human. And any woman who punishes you for having those standards isn't confused, she's strategic. She's testing to see what you'll trade for her attention. Here's a field-tested behavior shift. Stop explaining your value. Start demonstrating your standards. You don't need to say, "I don't tolerate hot and cold energy." Just go cold the moment she turns lukewarm. You don't need to ask, "Why are you being distant?" Just match her pace and observe her response. The men who win long-term are not the most charming, not the richest, not even the best looking. They're the ones who refuse to abandon themselves for approval. So let me ask you, have you ever noticed how calm you feel when you're around a woman who doesn't play games? She doesn't withdraw to test you. She doesn't send mixed signals. She doesn't punish you with silence, only to reward you later like a dog learning tricks. With that kind of woman, you don't feel like you're walking a tightrope. You feel like a man, grounded, clear, unshakable. So if you've never felt that, it's not because you're not worthy of it. It's because you've been too busy chasing women who only know how to earn power, not build connection. And the shift, it's simple. Start treating your attention like a gift, not a default setting, not a faucet she can twist on and off. A gift, something that must be earned and respected, not expected and exploited. Here's something to remember every time you feel that tightness in your chest, that panic when she stops responding. You are not losing her. You are watching her reveal herself. And that truth, that's freedom. Now ask yourself, when was the last time you gave your energy to someone who only gave you confusion? What would it feel like to give nothing? The next time she pulls back, instead of chasing, drop your answers below. I want to hear it. What kind of woman would never make you question your worth in the first place? There's a moment when the game ends, not because she stopped playing, but because you stopped participating. That moment is quiet. It doesn't come with a dramatic speech or a grand gesture. It comes when you see the pattern for what it is, and you no longer need an apology to confirm what you already know. And what you know is this: you were never crazy. You were never too intense. You were never too much. You were simply available in a world where scarcity is power, and some women weaponize that. It hurts, doesn't it? Not just the loss of her, but the loss of your own clarity. You start second-guessing your instincts. You read into texts that say nothing. You stare at seen receipts like they're verdicts on your worth. But here's the raw truth. Her mind games work best when you don't know your value. She doesn't need to manipulate a man who has boundaries. She doesn't need to breadcrumb someone who walks away from crumbs. She only plays with those who believe love is something to be earned through suffering. And that's you, or at least the version of you that was. You've probably been there. She gives you just enough to keep hope alive, just enough flirtation to make you stay, just enough vulnerability to make you feel needed. But the moment you ask for consistency, she vanishes. And somehow, you're the one who ends up apologizing. Not because you did anything wrong, but because you were afraid of being left. Let me be brutally clear, if a woman uses emotional confusion as her default tool of interaction, she's not lost. She's in control. That confusion you feel isn't accidental, it's currency, and you've been paying for it with your peace. Let's talk about one of the most common tactics, the hot and cold loop. You know this one. She's all over you 1 week. Flirty texts, late night calls, future talk. You feel like you're finally getting somewhere. Then, silence. She doesn't text back. She says she's busy. You feel like you imagined the whole thing. So you reach out. You try to re-engage. You play it cool, thinking if you give her space, she'll come back. And just when you're about to let go, she pops back in. Like nothing happened. Hey, stranger. And just like that, she resets the loop. This is not spontaneity. This is a cycle, a push-pull pattern that keeps you emotionally off balance, because when you're off balance, you're easier to control. And now you're thinking, how do I break that cycle? Start here the next time she pulls away. Don't flinch. Don't double text. Don't send a just checking in. Don't ask if she's okay. Assume her silence is her answer, and then withdraw your attention like it costs you something. Because it does. Every hour you spend obsessing over her coldness is an hour you're not building your strength. Every text you send trying to revive the vibe is a silent message that says, I'm afraid to lose you more than I respect myself. Let me give you a practical tactic that works, something I call the mirror rule. It's simple. Whatever she gives you, you reflect it not with emotion, but with energy. If she's warm, you meet her warmth. If she's cold, you match it with calm distance. No chasing, no punishing, no emotional performance. Just stillness. Why does this work? Because women who play games expect reactions. That's what gives them the high, the attention, the validation, the ego boost. When you don't react, you create space for her to feel the imbalance, for her to realize that the game isn't working. And if she was only in it for control, she'll disappear. Let her. Because the moment you stop needing her validation is the moment you stop being her puppet. You start showing up differently. You start speaking less and observing more. You stop asking, does she like me? And start asking, do I even want this energy in my life? That's when women respect you, not when you chase, not when you prove, but when you're willing to walk away the moment the energy turns fake. Because here's the final truth. Some women won't stop playing until they meet a man who refuses to play back. And if you're that man, you become rare. Not because you're bitter, not because you hate women, but because you've seen behind the curtain, and now, peace is more seductive than any unpredictable connection. So pause. Ask yourself, have you ever been trapped in a hot and cold loop, waiting for her to come back? What would happen if next time you didn't wait, you just let go? What would your life look like if you only gave energy to women who don't make you guess? I want to hear your answers. Drop them below. Your story might be exactly what another man needs to read tonight. There's a silence that comes after the storm, not the silence of confusion, but the silence of understanding, of finally seeing her games not as chaos to solve, but as mirrors reflecting back everything you once ignored in yourself. You see, when a woman plays with your mind, sending mixed signals, withdrawing affection, testing your reactions, she isn't breaking you. She's revealing where you were already weak, where your self-worth was still dependent on her warmth, where you didn't believe that your presence alone was enough. And once you see that, you don't chase anymore. You don't argue. You don't try to decode the message behind her silence, or the meaning in her sudden compliments after days of emotional starvation. You know it's a loop. You know it's power. You know it's the oldest trick in the book. And most of all, you know that the man you're becoming doesn't need it. You've probably looked back at moments where you begged for clarity, where you stayed up late rewriting the same message, trying to say the right thing, where you felt a pit in your stomach after watching her story go up but seeing no reply to yours. That feeling, that's the tax of emotional dependence. And you're done paying it. Because the truth is, the woman who keeps you guessing is not the prize. The prize is you when you're finally so grounded, so centered, so untouchable in your self-respect that her games bore you. Her absence doesn't rattle you. Her inconsistency doesn't tempt you. It repels you. You don't explain yourself to someone who already knows your value and pretends they don't. You don't convince someone to love you properly. And you sure as hell don't accept treatment today that you wouldn't want your future son to tolerate. Let's say this one more time, not for drama, not for effect, but for clarity. When she pulls away to test you, you don't follow, you pause, you measure, you watch. And if the energy stays off, you walk. Not with anger, not with a grand exit, but with the silent power of a man who's no longer available for emotional charity. You see, women don't respect men who make themselves emotionally cheap. And they shouldn't. Because if your love, your presence, your focus is given to anyone who stirs your insecurity, what's it worth? But when you move with restraint, with emotional precision, with high standards, women notice. They feel it. They know that you won't tolerate games, that you won't chase breadcrumbs, that you won't light yourself on fire to prove you're warm enough. And the ones who are real, the ones who want depth, consistency, truth, they'll rise to meet you. And the ones who are just there to siphon validation, they'll disappear the moment you stop pouring. Let them, because you don't need every woman to want you. You just need to stop wanting the ones who only love your attention, not your soul. So where do you go from here? You start by doing less, speaking less, explaining less. You don't ghost, you don't play games, but you don't overextend either. You give what's earned. You speak when it matters. You protect your inner world like it's sacred because it is. From this moment on, you stop being available to women who flirt with your peace but sleep with your dignity. You don't try to fix broken attention with louder affection. You don't take confusion as a challenge. You take it as a sign. And when your gut says something feels off, you listen. You don't silence that instinct to preserve a connection that's already corroding your self-worth. Because deep down, you know this. She didn't break you. She revealed what you were too afraid to protect. Now, protect it.